Welcome back to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Brent Daniels, Mr. TTP, Mr. Talk to People, and we've got an unbelievable episode for you today. I'm talking big, massive deals. I'm talking 100-unit apartment complex, and you will not believe what this 26-year-old with only 3 years of experience netted in his bank account from this deal. Check this out. Welcome to the podcast, Josh Horton from 30A, Florida. I didn't even know that was a place, but I am now educated on where you live. But more importantly, you just flipped a 100-unit apartment complex, and it took you 2 weeks. And you net, guys, listen to this, $860,000. How did you do that, Josh?
That's right. Yeah, thanks, Brent, for having me, and appreciate the time. My partner and I, are looking for multifamily properties in Alabama and Mississippi constantly. We're looking for them off market, we're looking for them on market, and we're making a lot of offers. So this one was actually one that we found on market. It was listed on a commercial real estate site. A broker had it listed. And it had been listed for over 100 days, but most of that time it had previously been under contract. So I followed up, or the initial outreach to the broker, they had just signed the contract. And so we were bummed. We thought we missed out, but I followed up with them probably 4 or 5 times while they were under contract. And eventually it fell out. The seller was needing to sell quickly for some personal and investment reasons. And so we offered them, on a 100-unit complex, we offered them $2.2 million with a less than a 45-day close. So we did a 10-day inspection period or due diligence period. And then I think it was a 40-day total close, so 30 days after the 10 days was up. And yeah, we ended up closing on it on the front end, but while we were under contract to purchase it, we made some calls to some local multifamily brokers that we know in the Alabama, Mississippi area and said, hey, bring us a buyer. We told them we would sell for $3 million. And we actually got multiple offers and were able to negotiate the back end sale price up a little bit more. So we closed on the front end on March 14th to purchase it, and then we closed on the back end on March 28th. So we didn't even have to do 1 month of full collections, and we got it moved and got it sold.
I've got a bunch of questions for you, brother. So What site did you find it on? What was the commercial website?
Crexy.com was the site. Yeah, I think it was listed on LoopNet as well.
And what was it listed for? How much?
It was actually listed originally for $3.5 million, and then I think it had a price reduction down to $3.2, and we ended up getting it under contract for $2.3, and then got a $100,000 credit down to $2.2. So that's where we ended up, 2/3 of the list price, just about.
And how did you know to go after this one? What did you see in the listing that you were like, you know what, this has potential? Was it just that it was on for 100 days? Was it that it needed some love? Like what was the alarm bells?
It was a
going
lot
off
of factors, but the pictures looked clean from what we could tell. When I see 100+ days listed on the site, any site, my ears and eyes perk up a little bit and I get excited. It said on the listing 99% occupied, which I was like, this can't be right based on the list price, listed at $32 a door, 100% occupied. That's hard to find no matter what small town in Alabama or Mississippi you're in.
Yeah.
So then I immediately, once I saw those things, then I checked the rent roll, which you could log into and see online, and was very pleasantly surprised. So within a few minutes of looking at it, I called the broker and was getting a lot more information. Probably had a 30-minute conversation with him and then we were fired up on it, ready to go.
But it's listed for 3.2. You know
Right.
that you got to get it under that. It just
Right.
goes under contract with another buyer. So do you
Yeah.
think that the buyer was like at that 3.2 million price?
From my conversation with the broker, I knew it was a little bit less than that, but I didn't know how much. And so I did everything I could to try and figure out what that bottom number would be that they were willing to take. And because I kind of almost built a relationship with that broker, and just told him kind of our story and a little bit more about us and built some rapport there. He was kind of willing to work with us, and he also knew that the seller really just wanted to sell and do it pretty quickly, and so he was willing to have a candid conversation about price as well. So that was helpful for sure.
And why did the buyer back out?
From the sound of it, they just weren't prepared, like financially, didn't have all their ducks in a row to close. And they said it was a financing thing, but you never really know with some of these.
So you're like, well, I'll make it happen at 2.3, and then you said something about $100,000 credit. So what does that mean?
Yeah, so we got a seller credit. We were under contract for 2.3, but our insurance quotes were coming back kind of higher than we expected. Because any deal like this we buy, we know that we may have to operate it for a few months, or worst case, if we don't find an end buyer, we've got to pivot and just continue to operate it. So we go in as if we're going to be the end buyer, as like the worst case scenario.
Sure.
And so we were getting long-term insurance quotes, and that was coming in a lot higher than we anticipated. So we used kind of that for this one as the basis for just getting a credit to buy down the insurance rate. Because to be honest, we did a full inspection of the property. We probably walked half of the units, so 50 units, and it was a lot cleaner than we expected. So we left that inspection day thinking we found a deal on this one.
How important is that, Josh, to go and actually walk the units? Because this is not where you live, right? This is somewhere else.
Correct. Yeah, this is actually 7 hours away from where I live.
So
yeah.
Did you drive? Did you fly? What'd you do?
I drove. Yeah, there's not any major airport options from where I live in Florida to Greenville, Mississippi, which is where the deal was. So I drove there. Yeah, took a long day trip.
So 7-hour trip. You're listening to Wholesaling Inc. podcast, Wholesale
100%.
Hotline podcast the whole way. Yeah, getting ready for these negotiations now. That's incredible. So you get out there, you walk the property, you get an idea of the insurance. You're able to get them down even further. I mean, they're $1 million off of their list price now, right? But there was some sort of motivation there with the property owner.
Yeah, there was 100%. Yeah, he had made the decision he needed to sell or wanted to sell, and then got to a place timing wise where he needed to sell because he was going to take his funds and do a 1031 exchange, and so he already had a different property that he was going to put his sale proceeds into. So timing is kind of everything in this business, but it especially was for this deal. So
yeah, it makes sense. And so he was looking cash. He wasn't looking to do any kind of creative financing. So oftentimes, guys, once you start negotiating these bigger deals, you'll find that the owners are open to owner financing or creative financing options. And that's how most of the deals are done. Now, if they totally close that off and they're only going to go cash, that's when you get the best deals. You know what I mean? When they need that cash for something else, it makes sense to them. Did the owner own it for a long time? I mean, was there significant equity in there?
His grandfather built the or maybe he didn't build it, but he bought it in the 70s right after it was built.
Right.
And their family owned it free and clear. Yeah. So they were just looking to cash out.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And so you lock this thing up, and how do you get the funding for it? You have just $2.2 million sitting around?
We do not, no, but we have relationships with some private money lenders that were willing to work with us. We had there was about 3 or 4 different people. It's really just individuals that have money and can stroke the check for it. that we've done smaller deals with, and we've built up the trust over the last few years. The first deal we did with them, was like a $50,000 deal where they loaned us maybe $45,000, but they've actually had more money that they could put towards deals. But we built that up, and just constantly looking for and closing deals over the last 3 years, and so we had funding lined up. They had just done 2 other multifamily deals for us, one in November and one in December. And so we actually got a loan for $2 million of the 2.2 purchase price, and we were able to come up with the difference. So we came up with about $200,000 and then had a loan at $2 million. But it was a much easier sell once we had a back end contract signed at $3.2 million. It kind of convinced them that the value was there, so they'd be willing to lend $2 million on it. So yeah,
pretty safe bet there.
Yeah, and that's how we were able to close quickly too, which is kind of why we were able to get the price down. Because on these larger multifamily deals, it's pretty unheard of to close, and I think our total close time was like 34 days. And it's pretty typical for it to be 60 to 90 days for larger multifamily deals, but because of the relationships that we've built with these private money lenders, we were able to jump in and move really quick. So,
how did you find these private money lenders?
One of them was I was cold calling a multifamily property down in Florida, and I said, "Hey, do you want to sell this building?" He said, "No, I don't want to sell, but I actually lend money. Like, tell me more about yourself." And so it was just from a cold call. And I didn't end up buying any of his real estate, but he's lent me money on probably 7 or 8 deals now. And then another was just through like word of mouth. And we actually had 2 people come together. They each put up $1 million, and we kind of put it all under one loan. But the other was just through my partner, just talking to people and saying, like, this is what we're doing, and this is, the kind of lenders we're looking for, like individuals with money. And someone put him in touch with this person, and we brought him a good deal 5-6 months ago, and it went well. And so they wanted to do more with us. So
it's amazing what happens when you get loud about what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when you talk to people and tell them, like, this is what I'm fired up about, this is what we're doing. We even share our goals, like our annual net income goals for the business, and like-minded people get fired up about that when they can see your excitement in it too. And so you get buy-in, and people want to see you win, and you can help them win too. So it's a lot of fun.
Conviction is a magnet. Everybody out there, get loud. Be excited about this business. Don't be shy. Just go out there and be really powerful and let everybody know what you're doing, and watch. You will not have any funding problems, because there's way more money than there are deals. There's way more. 100%. There's so much money on the sidelines waiting for great opportunities, especially with people that could be long-term mentors. People that own thousands of units or thousands of houses. They're now at the point where they're the bank. They've really scaled the pyramid up to the top of being the bank, and they love reaching back, and they love helping people out, because the fact is their kids or the people in their family aren't doing it, and they get excited when people are. So go out there with a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of conviction, tell people what you're doing, and I'm telling you, you're not going to have a problem funding really great deals. You never will. I've never had a problem funding a great deal ever, Josh.
No, same here. I mean, there's not been one deal that I can think of where I was really fired up about the deal and the opportunity, and then the money didn't follow. Yep. There were a couple times, admittedly, where it felt tight, and I was like, I don't know if we're going to get this one done in time. But the money does follow a great deal. If you're getting a bunch, or if you end up talking to 5 or 6 people trying to get money for a deal, and none of them commit to it, it's probably your deal's not good enough.
Yeah, you don't have a deal.
100% of the time.
Yeah, you don't have a deal.
Yeah,
It's that
yeah,
simple, which is great,
exactly.
which is education in itself. We
Yeah, and
need
you
we
learn a
need
lot.
that.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. You learn
You
so
you
much
learn a
from it.
lot about valuating. You learn a lot about the techniques that different investors implement, the different strategies that they're looking for, the way that they recognize potential. And the more reps you have at that, the more you can recognize potential out there when you run
Yes,
across it. So, one, it's
yes,
talking to a tremendous amount of people. Two, it's finding great deals. And three, getting really loud about it. And you are set. Would you agree?
yeah, yes, 100%. Yeah, I couldn't have imagined like the position that our business would be in at this point, just a few years after me leaving my corporate job to try this real estate thing full time. So, yeah, and the potential is out there for everyone, which is what's really exciting. I'm not some genius by any stretch of the means, but was willing to put myself out there. And so it's pretty cool that there's that opportunity out there for anyone who really wants to get after it. So,
Well, we'll get in the DeLorean in the time machine and go back in just a second. But I want to
okay.
I want to keep pulling on the thread of this deal, because whether it be $2 million or whether it be $200,000,
Right.
the principles that we're talking about here are the same if you're doing single family versus multifamily. Here, there is some
Yes.
nuance for sure. You have to understand the way that people evaluate multifamily as a commercial property,
Yeah.
essentially, and so it is different, but the numbers still work out the same. You still have to
Right.
find great deals, and you still have to find the people that know that this is a great deal, and put it in front of them. So how'd you find your buyer?
This one was we connected with a multifamily broker. My partner lives in Birmingham, and this broker was out of Birmingham, Alabama, and we had connected with him multiple times just to tell him what we were doing. And then we had brought a couple of different deals to him prior and said, hey, like, do you have a buyer for this? So this one, we called him because we already had an existing relationship with him. We hadn't closed the deal with him at this point, but we called him and told him the information on the deal, sent him an email kind of with a summary of all the numbers and like a link to photos that we had taken in our inspection and walkthrough, and just some other high level details, and said, bring us a buyer. See if you've got a buyer for this, let us know. And less than a week later, he did. Had someone ready to go with proof of funds, and we had signed a contract a week later for the back end sale. So it was as
Awesome.
simple as just calling a broker that we had talked to before and had a relationship with, and that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what was that like? Tell me the 30 seconds after you see that wire hit your account. Were you on your computer? Were you on your phone? You didn't get a check, right? It was a
We
wire?
didn't get a check. No, we got a wire. I went and signed in person at the title company, which was 2.5 hours away from where I live, and this was on Friday afternoon. And I was driving back home on Friday afternoon, and I pulled up my bank app on my phone and saw the wire hit. So I called my business partner, and we had a moment, and we're excited about it. And then that's it. Yeah, it still hasn't really set in, but it's definitely, opportunities and deals like that are out there in real estate and can be life changing, and that's definitely a life changing amount of money for me. So yeah, we were fired up about it for sure.
$860,000.
Yeah, yeah, we had
$860,000 wired into your account. You see it on your phone. You call your business partner and just go bananas. Are you guys just like, ah! You know what I mean? Are you guys just
yeah.
like fist bumping bros? What are you doing?
Yeah, we were congratulating each other. We we said we weren't together on Friday, but we said pour one out for each other tonight, and then I let my wife know as well, and she's super excited. She's my biggest supporter and cheerleader, so I called her too, and yeah, there was definitely a lot of excitement. So
Did you feel like you deserved it?
honestly, yes, I know, like from from the surface, it sounds like, you held that property for two weeks, like you don't deserve it. But I put in a lot of work over the past 3 years to kind of get the skill set and the knowledge base to where something like that could come together. And like made a lot more on that one deal than I have on like any full year, 2022, 2023, or 2024. Sure. And so it's just kind of been a snowball effect, and I felt like that was just kind of the culmination of the knowledge that I've gained and being willing to put myself out there for 3 years straight without always seeing the reward, because there's a lot of deals that maybe have fallen through, and a lot of work that I've put in that you don't necessarily see the fruits of your labor on. So it was an encouragement to see that one go through. And yeah, there's a lot of moving parts too, and so maybe it sounds simple, but there's plenty of moving parts that had to fall into place that we were trying to steer in the right direction as well. But yeah, I would say honestly, I would say I feel like I've deserved it after knowing the work that I've kind of put in over 3 years of time.
But you also have done a 44 unit, a 48 unit. Like, this isn't like, oh, he had one great year. Great, good job, Josh. You could talk about this for the next 30 years at barbecues. Right. You know what I mean? Like, you've done these multiple times.
Yeah. This was the biggest one, but we've closed some other similar deals recently. So, yeah, we're very excited about that.
And you've been in real estate 3 years.
3 years, yeah. I closed my first deal in March of 2022, so it's exactly 3 years.
Well, I'm going to ring this victory bell for you, brother. Come on!
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate your enthusiasm in celebrating others. I've always appreciated that about you, and in listening to you over the years as well. So,
well, it's an incredible business, right? It's a business that you start out and maybe your first deal you make 5, 10, 15,000, something like that, and then you keep being curious, and if you're really curious, you start learning more and understanding, being around other people that are doing bigger deals or doing different deals or building a really interesting portfolio or getting into lending. And the more that you just let the curiosity run, the more that you can find the path that is really suited for you. And I really believe that. I really believe that there's a particular path that everybody has, and it's all different. Yeah. It all depends on what you want to accomplish with this business and with your efforts and with your skills. Yeah. But you're 100% right, Josh. At the end of the day, you have to understand that the skills that you built to recognize, put that deal together, keep that deal together, get a buyer for it, get it to the finish line, get the financing in place, make everybody happy in the in-between. Yeah, it's 2 weeks of, that you owned it essentially, right? Right. But leading up to that is so many hours. So many hours of having conversations and disappointments and looking at really good deals and really bad deals and missing out on deals. And when you have a tiger by its tail like this, it's just it's incredible to share that story with everybody, because you're completely right. Anybody can do this. It's not like you have this crazy specialized skill that nobody else can figure out. You know what I mean? You simply were just talking to enough people that had bigger assets, and they wanted speed and convenience. So they have to work on our price. It's the same thing with a condo or a piece of land or a manufactured home that it is with a 100-unit apartment complex. If they want speed and convenience, they have to work on our price. And that's something that you understand and obviously have mastered when it comes to multifamily.
Yeah, we're bought into the multifamily space and doing this with multifamily. But yeah, you're right. It's the exact same concept. It's speed and convenience. And I started out with a lot smaller deals wholesaling, but it was the exact same thing. They wanted to work with someone who they liked and trusted, and they wanted speed and convenience. And if they had those few things, they're willing to give on price. And so that principle really applies to all of real estate. And what I love about real estate too is, like you said, there's so many different avenues and so many different ways you can make money. And so you kind of just pick a path and go down it. And if you commit your time and efforts to it for long enough, you will have some success. So
Yeah. The
great.
only time you don't is if you don't talk to anybody.
Right.
That's why the whole
Yeah.
thing is talk to people. As long
Yes.
as you talk to people, you will win.
Yeah.
As long as you're brave enough to talk to strangers about buying and selling real estate, you will win. Or funding real estate or whatever it is. Just be loud and bring that enthusiasm, bring that conviction to this business. And you're going to be sitting here like Josh, and I'm going to be interviewing you like, you know, pulling out your story because it's just incredible. And it happens every single second of every single minute of every single hour of every single day, Josh. Every day somebody's closing an incredible deal like this.
Yeah.
Why not everybody listening to this? Why not everybody watching this? Everybody's got their time. Everybody's going to have their day or multiple days or years or decades or whatever. But nothing happens if you're quiet. Nothing happens if you're timid and you're sitting on the sidelines and you're just a voyeur watching other people do it. Go out and take massive imperfect action. Get kicked in the teeth. Go through hustle season. Do all the hard things. You know, do the deals that make you $3,000 and $5,000 and $10,000, and your day at an $860,000 deal will be coming.
That's right. That's
Crazy. $860,000. What was the most you made at your job in a year?
I made about like $85,000 a year.
So this is 10 times that.
Yeah, it's 10 times that. So it's life changing for sure. Very, very exciting. So
Did you just know there was more for you? You know what I mean?
did.
Like, I assume you had a decent job. There was probably room to grow in that, right?
Yeah, after I graduated college, I got on paper what was a really great job. You know, making $85,000 fresh out of school in 2020. On paper, it sounds great. I was working remote though, and just kind of doing same tasks over and over again. And I was working on a team that was bringing in new business, but I wasn't bringing in new business. And I got a performance review after my first year, and they said, "You're doing amazing." Like, I think it was a 5-star grading scale, and I got 4 out of 5 stars, which they said was above average. And then with that, I got a 3% raise. And I said, I know there's more out there for me. And so I started doing the real estate, really just cold calling small single family homes. And I was doing that on the side while I had this job because I was working remote. But I just had a sense, I've always kind of had a sense that there's more out there for me if I'm just willing to take a little bit of risk and put myself out there. So,
Yeah. Have you always felt that potential?
I have, yeah. In high school, I started a landscaping business where I printed out a bunch of flyers and went to 250, 300 doors. Or like going back to middle school, like I would go and sell coupon books door to door as well. And so I kind of always was a little bit willing to put myself out there, but I just had no idea what that would look like in a professional sense. And I always had an interest in real estate. I just never really knew where to start until I found your podcast and heard similar stories of people doing it and making money with real estate without having any money. And at the time when I started this, I really didn't have any money. And so I was like, this has to be my path. I don't have several $100,000 that I can just go and invest in any particular deal. So I've got to go and make some active income in real estate. And so I just jumped into it. Yeah, started cold calling $40,000-$50,000 houses back in my hometown. So,
Are you still calling now?
am I still calling now? Yeah, but just calling, multifamily property owners. So we're pretty focused in this year on doing multifamily deals. But the exact same concept applies. Just cold calling owners. Finding a great off-market deal. That's it.
Now, do you go with the owners when you're pulling a list of multifamily owners? Is there a minimum amount of units you're looking at, and are you going after just the ones that are owned by an individual or individuals, or are you going after LLCs and individuals and trusts and all of that?
Everything, anywhere from 10 to 100 units is kind of what we're targeting. Open to a little bit more than that, But yeah, 10 to 20 units is kind of our bread and butter. It can be LLC owned, individual owned. Most of those are owned in entities, so you got to do your digging to try and find the owner. But yeah, 10 to 100 units. It's kind of below that like institutional level money, but above just your average investor that maybe owns a few rental properties. But there's a lot of mom and pop owners in that space, especially in Alabama and Mississippi. And so there's still some great deals to be found. But once you start getting into the class A and B multifamily and great areas that were built in the last 15 years, you know, it's more institutional ownership, and they're not as willing to take a discount on their property. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity kind of in this space that we found, and so we want to kind of continue to dive into it.
So talk to me a little bit about how you do that research. So you've got an LLC that owns a 50-unit apartment complex. How do you find the right people to connect with?
I use PropStream actually still, and a lot of that, like you can look in the linked properties in PropStream, or see like the mailing address that's connected to the property.
Yep.
And so I'll just go into Google and say Alabama entity search, and I'll put the entity that owns the property into the entity search for the state of Alabama, for example. And then you can typically find the member of the LLC or the managing member of the LLC, and then I'll look up their information and phone number and call them direct.
Look it up on PropStream?
I
Look it up
don't
on
use
Google?
PropStream. I've played around with different ways to find numbers. I've used True People Search. I've used batch skip tracing. I use a software called Forewarn now, and it's very accurate. So that's what I typically use, just to make sure I'm getting the right data. But yeah,
Forewarn. Do you have to have a license, real estate license for Forewarn?
You do, yes. One of my good friends, I use his account. He's a broker, so we kind of use it together. But you do have to have a license for Forewarn.
I'll tell you what. Skip Genie is incredible. I was playing around with that today, and it'll show you which numbers are active, which numbers aren't. It'll show you who's on the caller ID of those phone numbers, because oftentimes there's numbers attached to addresses, but it could be a relative, it could be a daughter or son or a husband or wife or whatever else, and not the person that you're looking for. And it shows you there. It also shows you if they're on the litigator list, if they're on the do not call list. I mean, it really does a really solid job. I was really impressed. It was like $58 a month for 100 searches. It's
very nice.
Pretty robust.
Skip Genie?
Skip Genie, yeah.
Okay, I'll have to do some digging. Yeah,
it's really cool. Yeah,
very good. But yeah,
awesome. So then you call them up, Josh, and you say, "What? Hey, I want to buy your apartment complex."
Pretty much, that's the sum of it. I just say, "Hey, my name is Josh Horton. You know, if it's an Alabama property, I say I'm from Alabama originally. I'm investing in multifamily throughout the state, or it's Mississippi. Yeah, I'm looking for multifamily properties in Mississippi. We bought this property nearby in this town over, and I totally understand. If not, never mean to be a bother, but just wanted to reach out and see if you'd be open to selling your property either now or anytime in the future. We can close quick, and we can make it a seamless process for you." And then I leave it at that, and they'll let you know for sure. And sometimes the timing isn't right. Sometimes it's just a flat up no, I'm never selling. But I've found that if you approach it, get straight to the point, and are also just kind and polite, then people are willing to have a conversation with you about it. And so most of the time, you know, it's a positive interaction. And also with multifamily too, they're getting less calls maybe than with just straight single family owners, and because you have to do more digging into the entity ownership, they're getting less calls, and so they're more open to someone like me reaching out to them.
Awesome. Yeah, I think the future, Josh, when it comes to calling and reaching out and being really proactive, is going to be less quantity and more quality. right?
Yeah,
More
100%.
in-depth research, more really finding the homeowners that don't come up in the easy searches. We've got in the Rhino Tribe, we have a private investigator that can get in for 75 to $100 an
Very
address for
nice.
very specific, find everybody that was related to maybe somebody that has passed away and you can't get a hold of anybody. I think
Very nice.
that's going to be where the real big deals and the real
Yes.
success is going to be found. I think the volume is, I think just from like a public standpoint, they're rejecting it, and there's going to be more and more tools to block it.
Yeah.
And so being laser focused and just calling a number at a time, trying to get a hold of specific property owners, I think is the future.
Yeah.
I really do.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, and I'm just making calls on my cell phone too, and I'll shoot them a text with my information after. A lot of times it's an iPhone text, an iPhone, and so they know it's a real person on the other end of the line. And I agree with you. Quality over quantity, and it's a fine line, right? Like you don't want to spend an hour researching this property before you call them just to have them say, no, I'm never selling or not interested at all. So you do just enough to make sure you're getting the right information and know enough about the property, and then that's it. And then you got to pull the trigger and move forward. So
beautiful, perfect, perfectly said.
Yeah.
Shout out. What's your partner's name?
His name's Alex Ferguson. Yeah.
All right, Alex, shout out there. You want to shout out your wife? You mentioned your wife too.
Yeah, my wife.
I'm sure she'll
Abby.
be watching this.
My wife Abby, yeah, she's my biggest supporter. Shout out to her. We had just gotten married, and she supported me quitting my job. The day I quit my job, and then the next day was when my first deal closed. So she let me quit my job before my first deal even closed, and believed in me and supported me before that even happened. So shout out to Abby as well. Yeah.
Awesome. How can people get a hold of you, Josh? If people want to learn more about you or just connect with you,
Yeah,
maybe they live, maybe they're one of the 14 people that live in 30A, Florida, wherever that is. You know what I mean?
That's right. They can shoot me a text. I'm happy to give my phone number. It's 205-532-9602. That's the best way to reach out to me. And then they can also email me. It's josh.horton6@gmail.com. So I need to take a page out of your playbook and start getting more of an online presence, but I've yet to do that yet. So those are the best ways to reach me.
Well, that's great. That's a great start, and keep your head down. Keep your head down, stay focused, keep finding amazing deals like this, and holy cow, I mean, your network's going to just absolutely explode. So, so happy you're on here, Josh. Thanks for sharing your story.
Absolutely, I appreciate the time, Brent. Thankful to be on here. Yeah, good to connect.
Awesome. Josh Horton, everybody. Absolutely incredible. Thank you for listening to this podcast episode. What an incredible story. I am telling you, everyone can do this business. The more people you talk to, the luckier you are. And if you are interested in joining the most proactive group in real estate investing, it is the Rhino Tribe. Go to wholesalinginc.com and check out what it is all about. Check out all the testimonials for the last 11 years. Nobody's coached more successful real estate wholesalers and investors than Wholesaling Inc. And if you are interested in getting the absolute best, fastest, most profitable leads of all time, go to talktopeople.com. Talktopeople.com. We're talking about pay-per-click Google web leads. They fuel my business almost 100%. It's been an unbelievable change in our business. The speed, the quality, nothing is like it. Go ahead and check both those out. If they feel good in your gut, sign up for a call with us. I look forward to working with you personally. Love you guys. Till next time, go out there, talk to people. See ya.